Hey guys, welcome to this session on Python tuple tutorial for beginners by Intellipaat. Tuple is by far one of the most fundamental core concepts in Python, and it is important to get a good grasp of it. But since there are so many options available other than tuple for storing data of multiple types in a linear fashion, it could be a little difficult to understand when to use tuple and how to use it correctly. Keeping that in mind, we've come up with this session to help you get started with learning tuple for Python. Now, let us take a look at the agenda. But before we begin, we'd like to ask you to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell icon to never miss another update. Also, click on the like button if you like this video, and in the comment section down below, put down any suggestions that for technologies you would like for us to cover in our next videos. Now, let's take a look at the agenda. We'll begin by taking a look at what are data structures. Data structures are one of the most fundamental concepts in any computer science degrees. It's also one of the fundamental concepts that a programmer needs to learn in order to write better and efficient code. But what exactly is data structures? We'll take a look at those. Then we'll take a look at what is tuple, since that's the focus of our presentation. We'll try and demystify it for you right at the beginning. Then we'll take a look at the benefits of using tuples. Why would you wish to use tuples over other data structures available in Python by default? Then we'll take a look at the operations that you can perform on tuple. There are many operations. We'll take a look at few of those, and then finally we'll explore those operations and many other operations hands-on in a Jupyter notebook on our systems. So with that, we'll cover the entire spectrum of what tuples are and how you can use them, and then we'll cover them in code as well. Now, in case during the presentation you have any questions regarding whatever we are covering, please put them into the question box and our team is there to help you out. Also, in case you wish to learn something about the concepts that we are discussing in these sessions, please stick around till the end and we'll guide you through some of the resources which can help you out into learning these things. Now let's begin. We'll begin by taking a look at what are data structures. So a data structure is a particular way of organizing and storing data in a system's memory so that it can be used efficiently for some purpose. So to give you an example, data structures are basically just a way of storing information in memory. The operations that we perform on some collection of data can be either fast or slow depending on how we have structured our data. So if we have a stack of plates that we want to wash, if we had just scattered them around on an entire kitchen tabletop and then we tried to wash them one by one and then do it, it could be a little cumbersome because you have to walk someplace other than that to get it and then figure out which one was washed and which one was not. On the other hand, if we had them neatly arranged in a stack, then we can take the one at the top that was not wash it and then put it in another stack which contains the dishes that are washed. So as you can see that when we're trying to store some information about a particular person or anything about any kind of information, if we store it in a particular way, then it becomes easier for us to perform particular operations. And data structures make use of exactly that concept of thinking. So they store the data inside a system's memory, which is mainly because if you store it inside a system's memory, then the data is volatile, it could be lost, but it's also very fast to access the data compared to data that is stored on disk. So that's why data structures are important, that we can enable our program to become more efficient in performing certain tasks depending on how we have structured the data. Now let's take a look at what is tuple. So a tuple is a built-in ordered data structure in Python in which each element is stored at a particular index, and after assignment, values in tuples cannot change. So to give you an example, if you have a tuple and you have some data that you don't want to change throughout the execution of your program, and this could be easily thought of as any kind of data that is going to remain constant through any type of collection of data that is going to remain constant throughout the execution of the program. Let's say that you're trying to build a calendar application and inside it you want to display the days in a particular week. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, ranging from the beginning till the weekends. Now, one way you can do it is you can store that data inside a list. That's certainly doable, but the problem with that is that lists are mutable. If anywhere down the code you end up accidentally changing the data, or not just you, but other people are working on your code, and they, without even realizing it, end up mutating the data and making it inconsistent. Now, when you're displaying things on your screen, everything's working fine, but when a user clicks a particular button, that data is changed, and now on your screen it looks different. This might even cause your program to crash. So in when you're dealing with problems like these, tuple is really helpful, because had you stored the data inside a tuple, then you immediately would have run, when you're running the code, you would immediately run into an error that suggests that you have performed some illegal operation. And with that, when you do that, then after performing operations such as that, you get an error, and your program won't crash because you would have rectified that error before the program runs. So that's why tuples are very important. They are built in, so you don't have to implement them on your own. They are ordered, so the order of the data is something that matters. If you have 10 values, the order in which those 10 values were put inside the tuple really matters here. How are you going to put those 10 values, what is the order in which the data is put, is really important. Then let's take a look at and it also stores it inside indexes. So if you've ever used lists, it's basically the same exact thing. If you've not used a list, don't worry, the hands-on will cover how to index into a tuple. But if you have used lists, then you know how this works. After assignment, values in tuples cannot change. This is the major benefit of using tuples, so keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at benefits of using tuple. Using tuple has several benefits. It starts away with statically sized. So dynamically sized arrays, which are lists in our case, are good, but particular disadvantage of that is that more size requires more time to allocate. So if your list grows up to be a particular size and then you add more and more data into it, it takes a lot of time. On the other hand, if you have statically sized your data structure, so in languages like Java and C++, you would have to statically define how long you want your arrays to be, and that way, right at the beginning of your program, that memory is allocated to that array as long as it is being used, and then you can use it, and you can choose not to use it, but that memory is there for you to use. You don't have to shrink the array, you don't have to maximize it, you don't have to fiddle elements around here and there just to make more space to be allocated to an array. It's just there. So that's why statically sized is really important, because it allows our code to be a little more efficient. Then comes faster operations. Although tuples don't allow for us to perform a lot of operations, many of the operations are faster because the size is static, as well as the statically sized variables once assigned cannot be changed. So the statically sized memory, when we add data to it right at the beginning, then we can't change it as well. So we can be rest assured that it's not going to be mutated during the course of a program, and our memory is going to remain fine and it's not going to change. So because of the limited number of operations, the operations that are being performed are faster. Then comes immutable. Immutability is a big aspect when you're trying to build an application. The reason why is because we want to be assured that this code is not going to change anything that we do not want to change. So that's why immutability is an important aspect, and that's why it's used in tuples. Now let's take a look at few tuple operations. The first one is create. To create an empty tuple, you can use the tuple function or use empty parentheses. Parentheses are these small brackets, as you see in the example that we have listed below. In the code, we have options equals to an opening parenthesis and a closing parenthesis. That's basically how you can create an empty tuple. Parentheses are not important to create a tuple, but since we're creating one that's empty, we have to use them. Then there's names. Names basically is another tuple that we're creating, but we're using the tuple function, where you typing the word tuple and then we're calling the function. In case you don't know what functions are, don't worry, stick with us till the end of the presentation and we'll guide you through some of the resources where you can learn these things. Also, in case you have any questions regarding anything that we're covering, put them into the question box. Our team is there to help you out. Now we can use the print options here, and what we do is we're printing anything that is inside the options tuple. Since it's empty, it just prints the parentheses and then just leaves. To give you a good overview of what the internal memory representation looks like. Look at the image on the right hand side. We have data and index both pointing to an empty space because nothing has been assigned, and the options variable is going to be pointing towards the entire memory space that is acquired by the options tuple. Since it's empty, then nothing is there. Now to initialize a tuple with some value, you can either use the tuple function or use the comma syntax. So let's take a look at that. In a tuple function, you need to pass in some other data type or some other data structure like a list. These data structures that you're passing inside the tuple function need to be iterable. Basically, you need to pass in a data structure on which you can use a for loop on, because internally tuple function is going to use a for loop to loop through the entire data and put them inside the tuple. So like list, it will return a new tuple with all the values from that data structure. So if I want to convert a list into a tuple, all I have to do is just pass it inside a tuple function and it will work just fine, as we have discussed below. Now, as you can see in our diagram on the right, we have a few values and we also have indexes associated with them. Those indexes help us access these data types or data elements. Now, to use the comma syntax in order to initialize a list or a tuple, all you have to do is type in some values with commas. Even if it's just value, type in a comma after it and you'll get a tuple with single value. You don't have to use parentheses as I discussed earlier, so you can do it on your own. And then you can print and see the output as well. So you can check either if a particular element exists in a tuple, or you can check at what index does a particular element exist. Those are two kinds of searches that you might want to perform. So that's how you can do it. Now to do that, to figure out whether or not a particular element exists in a tuple, all you have to do is look through the tuple and figure out whether it's there or not. Now you can write the code yourself for looping through the tuple and then comparing each element, but Python has membership operator in which you just use the in keyword with the element and the tuple. It will look on its left hand side and see a number or see an element. On its right hand side is a collection of elements, and it figures out if the left hand side element is present in the right hand side element. If it does find it, then it will return true. Let's take a look at a visualization here on our right hand side. So 25 is not equal to 21, so we move on. 18 is not equal to 21. 21 is equal to 21, so we found the number, we return true. Now you can also use the index method to find the index of a particular element in a tuple. It returns the index of the element if it's found, and if it's not found, then it throws an error. So if I want to find the index of 21, getting to know already that it already exists in my data structure, I'll just you do the same thing, look over 25, it's not there. 18 is not 21, and then 21 is equal to 21, so I return the index instead of returning true. So now I know which index to use to access 21 as a value. Then comes slicing. Now slicing is an operation that many data structures support, such as lists and other data structures as well. But the operation of slicing basically involves getting a contiguous portion of the list of elements that we have. List is used here pejoratively. We don't mean to say that tuples and lists are the same thing, but it's just a list of numbers. So that's why we're saying it. For example, if we wish to get a copy of elements from index 1 to 3. So when we're slicing, we're not actually just removing all the other elements. We're just creating a copy of a subsection of the tuple. So here, if I want elements ranging from index 1 to 3, which basically are 18, 21, and 40, what I have to do then is just use the name of the tuple, and in the brackets, I will write 1:4. 1 is where I want to start from, 4 is right after where I want to end. So I want to add at 3. Right after 3 comes 4, so I type in 4. It is because the end is exclusive. It's important to notice that we have instructed Python to go from index 1 to 4, but it only goes to 3 because the ends are considered exclusive. This is something you need to take into account when you're trying to write the code. So now let's take a look at a hands-on. If you've ever written code in Python, you know how to perform certain operations, but you might not know how to use Python with tuples. So let's take a look at that. Now for that, we're using Jupyter Notebook. It's not necessary that you use Jupyter Notebook, write the code in code editors and run it inside a command prompt. I'm using Jupyter Notebook because I can write the code and the output will be displayed right here. So let's begin. The first thing that I'll be doing is I will be creating a tuple. To create a tuple, as we have already discussed, there are two ways. First way is by just opening and closing a parenthesis. Second way, or I'll just name first and second. Second way is equals to using the tuple function. Run this, print first, print second, run this, and I get two empty parentheses. These two empty parentheses are telling us that these are empty tuples, basically tuples that have no value inside them. Now again, it's not necessarily the case that you have to create an empty tuple. This is just for demonstration purposes. Most of the time people don't create empty tuples because since you can't add values after it, it makes no sense to create an empty tuple. But that really is your way of dealing with things. If you want to create an empty tuple, you can. It is available for you to think about it. Now, with that, let's take a look at the other operations that are available for us to perform, ranging from taking a look at the order. So, as we have discussed that tuples are ordered. So if I were to create a tuple with some values inside it. So for instance, if I wanted to create, let's say, sample, or I'll just create a tuple named x because this is easier for me. 11, 12, 13. If I were to print x here, I get this. Also, I don't need to use parentheses as I've already discussed. Yeah. So now order is important here. If I have ordered collection of tuple, that means x should be at the 0 index, y should be at the first index, z should be at the second index. Or I'm doing this incorrectly. Now if I run this, I have 11, 12 and 13. So as you can see that the first element is 11, which is what I had put here. Second is 12, third is 13. If I were to change it 12, as you can see, this is what it looks like. So the order here is important. The order in which I have entered the elements is the order that will be maintained throughout the life of the tuple. Now if you move ahead with the ordered, we have the unchangeable property as well. So if I want to add some element or maybe change the element here, it index 0 it's 13. If I want to change it to 10, I can't do it. It says that tuple object does not support item assignment. Now there is a way around it, however it's a bit tricky. So let's take a look at that. First I will have to change the tuple to a list. I can just use the list function, pass in x, and this will give me a list, right? So x underscore list is equals to this. Now if I want to change values here, I can do so. Print x list, and as you can see, this is the value. This is a list, not a tuple. And now if I want to convert it back to a tuple, I can just use tuple of x and x list, sorry, and I get that. If I want to assign it to x, I can't change the values, but I can change it inside a copy of the tuple and then convert that copy to a tuple and assign it back to the variable. So that's really possible. Now there are other ways of doing this as we'll discuss later on, but you can't actually change the values. If I want to change it again, let's say 0 equals to 99, and I get the same error. So you have to really be cautious about it. Neither can I add an element. If you want to take a look at the available operations, let me just x dot and passing tab, count and index are the only two methods available to me. So I can't add elements as well. Tuples do allow duplicate operators. So if I want to assign a new tuple and if I want 10, 10, 11, this works. No error is thrown. And if I were to print x, all the values including the duplicates are put there. It also allows heterogeneous data structures. So I have 10 as an integer, 10 as a string, and then 10, 11 as an integer, and it works. I can have Boolean or whatever kind of data I want inside a tuple. Tuples don't care. But it is recommended that you use the same data type throughout your entire tuple because it's easier for us to loop through the data and then perform certain operations. If even one value inside the tuple is not of the data type that we're expecting, then maybe the operation that we're going to perform is going to throw an error and we'll run into some problems. So just make sure you understand that. Then comes tuple length. If you want to take a look at the length of a tuple, type in length, press X, and this is the length of the tuple that is assigned to the variable x. It's quite easy. Let's take a look at the type. So type will tell us what kind of data structure it is. This is tuple. If I want to take a look at x list, this is a list. If I want to take a look at a number, this is integer. 10.0 is a float, and there are many other kinds of, as you can see, so sorry, it's also an integer. So you can take a look at the type of a function or a variable. Now, how to access a tuple item? This is also quite interesting. The same way we did earlier, we can access them using indexes 0, 1, 2. Now again, I'd like to change it back to 10, 11, 12 so that it works. Now if I take a look at this here. Now negative indexing is also possible if you've ever used list. If I want the last element and I don't know the length of the entire tuple, I can just type in a negative index. It'll start from the end and go one step forward, and we get 12. Let's take a look at slicing. Slicing is also quite easy. Just type in x, and let me just assign a few more numbers. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This is done. Now if I want to get values from 12 to 14, and I get that. As you can see, the ends are exclusive. I can also check whether or not a particular element exists inside the tuple. So I type in 11 in x, returns true. 1 in x will return false. You can change the tuple values as we have already discussed by assigning new values to them. So again, for x, we have list. I can show you a shorthand syntax of it. We get the list of x dot append 18, and we create a tuple out of it. And we'll get, oh, none type is not iterable because we have to add it. L is equals to this L, and we appending that is going to be L dot, and now it works. So this is how you can do that. Now let's take a look at adding items. So as we have discussed how we can add the items inside a tuple, we can't do it directly, obviously. But if you want to add more items to the list, then we have to do the same way that we did earlier. I'll just show x. I have 18. And if I want to add more items, I would have to perform the same operations that I did earlier. If I want to change the item, which we had done earlier, but let me just show you again, convert it to a list, then index into the value that you want to change. So I would have the last element be changed to 19, and then assign it to be a tuple of L. Now if I want to print x, this is what it looks like. So I have changed 18 to 19 successfully. Now unpacking a tuple is an interesting thing. So let's say that I have numbers and I want 11 and 12 to be extracted from them. So x, y, z equals to, sorry, yeah, instead of it being x, let's call it nums. Yeah, equals to nums. So if I run this, as you can see, too many values are expected inside a tuple. So let me just unpack this here. Nums is equals to 1, 2, 3. So if I know that I only need three numbers, now x and y and z have 1, 2, and 3 in them. So that's what unpacking means. Run this and I have 1, 2, 3. If I want to make it 13, this works as well. So unpacking basically means assigning each index of a variable of a loop to a variable. Now let's loop over the tuple. So I have nums here and I have x as well. So let me just run nums here again. Int is not a triple. Oh yeah, because I have changed it. Let me just reassign it there in looping portion. X is equals to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Now if I want to loop over it for number in x, and I can perform anything I want to, let me just print the number. So yeah, 14 and 13 need to have a comma between them, and we have the value. If I want to add space instead of a new line, then I can do that here as well. So this is how you can loop over each element using a for loop. If I want the index of each element, then I just use I in length of x and then x of index. Int is not iterable because, let's take a look at this. For I in range, And now it works. So we're asking it to create a range of numbers ranging from 0 till the length of the list, length of the tuple, and then we just index into each variable. Now if I want to do this with while loop, I can do so as well. All I have to do is use while I is less than length of x, print x of I, and then I plus equals 1. And right at the beginning, I have to set I to be equal to 0. So as you can see that it printed everything 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. But it is a little more involved, so make sure that you use the correct loop for correct operation. Now let's perform certain operations on the tuple. Let's say I want to join two tuples. So if I have 11 and 12, and then another tuple is 15 and 18. These are two tuples. But if I want to add them together, I can do so. Now these are two tuples joined together into a single tuple. What if I want to combine these? So instead of combining or adding these, if I want to multiply them, which means I want to repeat them, I can do so as well. Let's say 4, and that happens. So you can mix and match these operations as well. So I want to add two of these, and as you can see 11 and 12 is added one time, 15 and 18 is added two times. Finally, I can use methods on these tuples. These methods range from count and index. These are the only two methods available. So if I take a look at x, it's here. If I want to count the number of times 11 occurs once, 10 occurs 0 times, and if the tuple had values with multiple occurrences, then it would show me inside the count. But what if I want to check the index of 11? 0. And 10, it would throw an error. So x is not in tuple, this is an error. Again, you can go over these errors by using try and except print not done this, and 10 is not found here, but 11 is it index 0. So as you can see, it's quite easy to do so as well. So with that, we've come to the end of the hands-on. Let's take a look at what else we have for you. Whenever I'm trying to learn something new, a quote that always helps me stay motivated is an investment in knowledge always pays best interest. Keeping that in mind, we would like to guide you through some of the resources where you can enhance your knowledge about these things. If you have any questions regarding any of the technologies that you're using to build something, you can take a look at our community site. It's intellipaat.com/community, where you can browse through and answer questions that others have asked, or post your own questions, and like-minded people, your peers, will answer the questions if they've run into the similar issues, or they can help you get the answers that you want. If you are interested into reading blogs, technical blogs, then intellipaat.com/blog is our website where we publish blogs regularly. You can take a look at the content that we produce. We produce content ranging from content about careers, technologies, which technology is better suited for which purposes, interview questions, and many others. If you're more of a visual person, then we have a YouTube channel as well. We hope you have subscribed to the channel. On the channel, you can find several free courses available, ranging for technologies from data science, machine learning, Python, Java, C++, data structures, and many others. So you can take a look at that. But let's say that you want to get certified to showcase your talent, so that employers can verify that you know what you are asserting to know. In cases like this, if you want to learn Python, which we've discussed here, our website offers a Python course for online certification. You can take a look at this. We have 24 hours of self-paced videos and 42 hours of instructor-led training. You can take a look at them both. 50 hours of project works and exercises, and 24/7 lifetime support with certification and job assistance and flexible schedules. So you can take a look at career transitions. You can take a look at an overview of the course. You can take a look at the skills that are covered. These are the basic Python skills such as multi-threading, object-oriented programming, packages, web scraping, exception handling, and some advanced topics as well, such as pandas, numpy, web scraping, packages, Apache Spark, and many others. You can take a look at the curriculum here in the website itself, and we also help you perform certain projects. These projects are going to help you put a little bit of a weight on your resume, so that when the employers ask you what have you built, you have some idea of solving a real world problem. After completion of this certification course, you'll get a certificate which is valuable in more than 80 top MNCs and some Fortune 500 companies as well. You can take a look at our course reviews. It's one of our highest rated course reviews. And you can also take a look at some of the questions that are posted inside FAQ. In case your question is not answered in FAQ, let me point you through a resource where you can get the answers. But before that, thank you so much for joining us. Take a look at the coupon code YouTube 30. When you're trying to buy a course of our site, you'll get a flat 30% off without any questions asked. This coupon code is available for a limited period of time. So in case you don't want to miss this opportunity, we recommend that you use YouTube 30 coupon code as quickly as possible. So with that, we've come to the end of the session. In case your questions are not answered in the FAQ, please direct them at the numbers that are listed on your screen for India and US. If you're more of an email person, then you can contact us via the email. Our course advisors are there to help you out 24/7. So at any time you can drop a mail and you can get a call back at any time you wish to. With that, we've come to the end. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.